Welcome into Boxing Scene today. Where do we begin in a weekend not just full of great fights, but full of meaningful fights that will define 2026 in a red-hot division? Did we see the beginning of a future star pound-for-pound king, Jimmy Smith, at the desk with the champs, Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri? I feel like we should spin the wheel of fights to know where do we start? Because everything this weekend was absolutely extraordinary. We got to start with the biggest. Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson. Paulie, both of you guys, I want to give you guys credit. And this is privately, I know we said on there, both of you guys picked Shakur Stevenson. You guys are like, yeah, I think Shakur wins this one. Paulie, did you think it would be this easy, this decisive? He owned Teofimo Lopez for 12 rounds.
No, I didn't see it. Even if a piece of me said, okay, if Shakur wins more easily than expected, it'll maybe be 9-3 or 8-4 if he wins more easily than expected. Because I could see that, but
right.
That was in the event that Shakur came the sharpest and it was a little wider than I thought. I wouldn't have expected it to be this wide. I did not expect it to be this dominant, you know. And I'm a firm believer that Shakur is the best fighter of these smaller weight classes. But even I didn't see it coming from that to that degree.
When you look at it, Chris, and you and I were talking about this before we came on air, if you put a measuring tape between their hips, it was the same distance the whole fight. You talked about the winner of this fight will be the master of range. Can Shakur Stevenson control the range against an explosive, powerful, creative Teofimo Lopez? He controlled it from the beginning, Chris.
Yeah, and he kept it really simple. It was very, very basic boxing, and it was all position game. He was the master of positioning the entire night. You know, just like you said, he kept that distance brilliantly, and it was so smooth. It was like AI. It was like as soon as he stepped forward, it was like whoop, whoop. It was just the whole
and
time.
Punching both directions.
And punching both directions, both in and out. The jab was phenomenal. Incredible precision. Teo had no answer for it. You know, when you got a guy who fights with that hand, you got to be reactive. It was too quick. He got there too fast. But also, whenever Teo did close the distance, because Teo is a very explosive guy, and he kept trying. Yeah. Shakur let him know. No. Don't get too close. Okay. He rips two big hard shots. Even though Shakur's not the biggest puncher, I know everybody talks about that. Punches hard enough. And he was throwing really meaningful punches whenever Teo did break that first position. And we talked about Shakur and his style and how he controls every range. He showed that perfectly that night.
And also, you don't have to be the big puncher when you're always in position and you're able to punch out of all the positions. And no matter what move you make, you're going to keep your opponent sort of domesticated, because any kind of attack they make, if you have them missing, any position you wind up at, you can hit them. And so it's not going to tickle. Guys that...
But also it's timing and you're getting head-to-head.
Yeah,
you're getting full head-to-head collision.
But also it's more so than this. I'll tell you what it is, too. Because everybody makes like, oh, you know, when somebody's not strong enough, you're going to be able to keep a guy coming forward. That's for guys who wind up totally in flight. Guys who wind up totally in flight, yeah, you don't have enough power to keep the guy off you. But no matter what, if you're a boxer, even if you don't have crazy power, if you're able to play the position game well, you're going to just keep shocking your opponent. You know, you're going to keep shocking you with snappy shots. And that's what Shakur did, starting with a masterful jab. I mean, I hadn't realized that apparently I'm the only one that didn't know this, because in my comments on my own page on Paulie TV, everybody was like, yeah, he is a converted right-hander who's fighting southpaw. I was watching the fight the other night, and I'm like, this is way too good with the right hand. This guy's got to be right-handed, you know? And yeah, that's what I learned that this weekend, guys. I'm late to the party. I always felt Shakur was good. But
Teofimo learned that as well.
Yeah, he figured that out on the way.
Naturally right-handed.
He caught enough of those right hands.
And what about, we got to credit Shakur's grandfather, right? That's what's his name? Malik. What's his name in the corner of Shakur?
I don't remember who was in the corner.
Malik's. You guys let us know in the comment section. But he's basically his grandfather's the master behind the whole game planning and behind Shakur's boxing in general. That's another thing when you dialogue with fans and you get these little tidbits as well. But first of all, you got the discrepancy in the corners is also very, very obvious as well. That's another conversation.
Right, and it was a conversation I was about to have. Thank you so much for bridging us into that. Teofimo Lopez's corner was just, hey, where did your power go? And you heard all this kind of, I don't want to say negativity, it was almost like they were completely flummoxed, had no idea how to deal with the strategy. And it was this idea of, and we see it sometimes, it's in combat sports, gentlemen, where someone's physically so good or they have so many gifts or they're so explosive that the corner just doesn't know what to do when it goes wrong. They're kind of like, well, it always worked before. I don't know what to tell you. Was there a little bit of that in Teofimo's corner, Chris, their inability to make the adjustments necessary to get around a brilliant game plan?
As much as, Champ, and you said you were surprised that it was so easy, So was Teofimo's corner. They were surprised that what they had planned didn't work. There was no plan B. But also, what would be the plan B for that kind of fight? He had nothing for the guy. He couldn't close the distance. He couldn't close the range. He was getting hit with everything. He didn't have defense.
He could have used his jab more.
He tried, but he wasn't authoritative with it. He kept just hitting that lead hand. But trying to hit anywhere he could. But again, the movement from Shakur was just so good. And yes, you could tell that. Listen, I've been around Teofimo Lopez for big fight weeks, the Lomachenko fights, Josh Taylor. He tends to operate in chaos, and that's not just the way he fights; it's also around
his life.
Yeah, his life. Fight weeks with him, I always thought they were really entertaining because he's up and down and all over the place. But he always seems to lock it in, even when his father's being the way that he's being, and the people around him and whatnot. But he locks in. But that wasn't enough just to lock in for Shakur. You had to have a distinct game plan, the way Shakur did to prepare for Teofimo. It was just two different levels of fighter, and I'm not taking away from Teofimo Lopez. There's different kinds of fighters, I should say, where Shakur comes supremely prepared, and where Teofimo relies more on his physical prowess and abilities to get over the hump. But when you get to the highest level, the guy who comes prepared wins.
Teo just missed a couple of times with a couple of counter right hands, and you started thinking if he would have just landed that one, would have changed the momentum of the fight. It's just, but Shakur kept missing. Yeah, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle, of course. But sometimes they just missed. I mean, there was a couple of times they just missed, and Shakur just got out of range. And then Shakur not only getting out of range, but shooting him back a little pot shot counter as well to domesticate him. And you're just man, he's just right there, but he's never right there,
but, on paper, that was how we saw how Teofimo could do well in the fight. Otherwise, it was what happened.
And you also see the busting of position by Teo. Teo sometimes lives off the busting of position offensively, where he'll leap in with shots and
steps into southpaw position
and wind up in positions where it throws you off because he's so explosive and so athletic. But the busting of position against such a master like Shakur, now you're using those same tendencies. You're doing all these juke and jives, and you're trying to fly in with shots. Shakur very simply steps out of range or just slips and counters. With the simple shots, the simple counters, good reactions, good fundamentals, and just puts you back in your place. And then you got to start all over again. And then when you got to start all over again, that damn jab. That jab
it always goes back
to the jab.
Right.
I mean, so it was a very disciplined performance by Shakur Stevenson as well. It wasn't just a masterful performance. Part of it was because he was so disciplined the whole time.
You made me think of another point. The difference in energy expenditure between the two styles. Shakur stayed so composed. He never looked like he was pushing hard or going over his skis, so to speak, where Teo was working redlining the whole time because of those explosive maneuvers. And Shakur was just there to stop him, to step aside, move him, push him, got him off balance. I mean, absolute masterclass. I know I've seen some people complaining about it. That was a beautiful thing to witness.
Gentlemen, if you're old enough, you remember Floyd Mayweather versus Chico Corrales. That was supposed to be an even fight. And Mayweather blew him away. Yeah, there were 5 knockdowns in that fight. But we all went, okay, this guy's on another level than everyone else. That star-making performance. Is that comparison apt to this fight?
I believe so. And I actually said this a few months ago, and some of you guys in my comments are going to be eating your words now.
Let them know.
Yeah,
that's what I love to do.
I had said.
Who's right? We're right.
We are gonna eat some crow in a little bit, but not yet. Not on this point. So I said, if you look at Shakur Stevenson, because he's always been that guy that he's not going to get the recognition until he beats your favorite fighter. Right. So he needs these fights. So if he goes out there with a Teofimo Lopez and he beats him 11-1, 12-0, then you're like, okay, now we're in the conversation of Floyd Mayweather, because we're seeing exactly your point, that transitional fight. The difference in that fight is that was Floyd's first weight class. This is Shakur's 4th. So all those knockdowns in that first one, yes, that was a different Floyd. That was a Floyd when he was as big as those guys, not fighting up. Shakur's fighting up. And he's at his 4th weight class having, this kind of success. So all you guys in the comments who said that I was out of sorts to say that, we're in the conversation of Floyd. Now we're back. Now we're right back to it.
Little out of line yourself. Yeah. Little out of line yourself. Insult him a little bit. So when you look at it, Paulie, this idea, and Chris alluded to it, that he doesn't have the power to be that scintillating. I'm sorry. Teo was busted up. Teo was bleeding. It wasn't as though, and we've seen fights where guys from lower weight classes come up, and the other guy at the end, even at the end of a beating, looks fine. He could hit enough that Teo was bothered a lot by the power. Is that fair, Paulie?
Yeah, he was bothered, I think, by a lot of things. I think it's the frustration mounted as well. He just couldn't get there, getting snapped, got cut. Just couldn't make anything work. Then he goes back to the corner, and his father's yelling at him. So, and there wasn't really anything sustained with the instructions. Hit him, Yeah. Usually that's what we come to the ring for. You gotta hit him. But it was so. I think it was just he was in that zone where it's just the frustration was mounting, and there was no answers from him.
Everyone here at this table has coached to some level, right? We've all coached. I've coached MMA. They've coached boxing. People ask me, what is bad coach? How do you know when a coach is bad? I say, if your mom could say it, it's bad. Yep. If your mom, go get him, Tiger. Go get him. Get after him. Yeah, my mom could say all that stuff.
The cliche in the crowd, knock him out.
Knock him out. Go after him. If your mother could say it, if my mother changed place with the corner and she said emotional stuff, get him, Tiger. You're the best. All right, yeah, my mother would say all those things.
I say cheerleader. If you pull the cheerleader over with the pom-pom over to step in place of the coach, that's not a good coach.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes even the corner can get frustrated and lose their minds as well.
Yes.
I think that there's just an emotional. They work off the emotional chaos in Teo's corner, and sometimes it works brilliantly. Sometimes that's what works. But when it doesn't go well, it really doesn't go well. And that's the thing. We saw it in the Kambosos fight too, where it was very chaotic, and when it didn't go well. Speaking of which, I'm going to transition just a little bit because you got to think about where do you go next, right? And there's a lot of obviously everybody's going to be talking about the Stevenson conversation. What does he do now, and all this other stuff about Conor Benn or maybe Muratalla or whatever. We can discuss that. But you know what I think about Teofimo Lopez? Usually you got to rebuild, you got to go back, and it's usually your rebuild fight is, you take a so-so fight. But I think there's a really good rebuild fight for Teo that could really generate interest, and that's Kambosos. You could rebuild on the Kambosos fight because there's an inner built rivalry. You have a loss to him.
Yep.
Kambosos kind of needs to rebuild himself, so they're kind of in the same position, and they typically don't like each other, right? So
there you go.
We'll have more chaos.
Hey, the first fight, say what you will about the performance, the first fight was entertaining. Very good.
Yeah,
it was a good
fight. I think that's actually...
Look at the matchmaker. This guy putting his matchmaker hat on.
But seriously, it was always something that you always want to try to avenge later or whatnot, or at least it has to come up at a certain point. But, and maybe you would think about it, if Kambosos kept winning and Teo kept winning, you would do that rematch. But instead... They've both fallen off since then now. And now, so sometimes that's what happens. Like, Ray Leonard and Duran 3. It's like later on when it's like you think it's not interesting, but people are going to tune in. People are going to be interested. Granted, hopefully it's not Leonard Duran 3 because that wasn't a great fight. But what I'm saying is Teo and Kambosos, there's a place for that fight right now, for that rematch right now at this moment in time, I think.
Well, what I want to discuss too is a fight that was on that card that by itself would have been an incredible fight, but being underneath Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez. Keyshawn Davis over Jermaine Ortiz getting knocked out in round 12. If you didn't see it, great combination, just drilled Ortiz to the canvas in front of his hometown crowd, becomes a world champion. Great story. We'd be talking about a lot more if it weren't underneath that.
At the end of the fight.
Right at the end of the fight.
Man, I'll tell you, if you had the distance on that fight, man, you were kicking yourself in the ass.
Right there.
Just for any of us that may have bet, Keyshawn by decision.
But Keyshawn,
in theory.
Right. Another, I don't know about star making yet, but man, crowd was on their feet for that one. It was a very impressive performance.
Another one of those next level breakout type performances.
Yes.
Jermaine Ortiz is a guy that
never been stopped.
never been stopped.
And always gives trouble.
And I was gonna say, typically gives very good accounts of himself against very, very high level fighters. This shows you that Keyshawn Davis is on a different level. And this is a point that I was thinking about leading up to this whole weekend. Shakur and Keyshawn were training together. When I saw that, and I saw Keyshawn was back, and they were in the gym together, and they were sparring, I'm like, Teo's in trouble.
You know what? This is why he's good, because it reminds me of something, too. I saw an interview with Keyshawn. Was it at the Muratalla fight, or was it around where he said he was expecting, he wouldn't be shocked if Shakur stopped Teo.
Yes,
now,
said that.
I, myself, from the outside, I'm not on the inside, so Keyshawn obviously being on the inside is more emotional about it, but from the outside, what that told me, I wasn't necessarily on board with the stoppage anyway, but what it told me was, Shakur must be super sharp.
Yes.
For Keyshawn to be saying like this, so confidently, speaking like this, because they've been in the gym together.
Yeah.
So for him to be speaking that confidently, I didn't expect a stoppage, but I did start to think about the domination part of it. But again, even the domination that we ended up seeing, as I said, was still
cliche
unexpected.
iron sharpens iron. It's incredibly true. For anyone who's ever been in a gym, the more killers you have in the gym, everyone elevates. And when you have those two types of guys together, and they're also hyper competitive, I mean, they're just going to go up and up and up. So for Keyshawn, I mean, this is an absolute breakout performance, and these guys are taking over, man.
I think there's a real star-making potential here with these guys.
Yes.
Maybe eventually, I know they're friends, but maybe eventually there's going to be a demand for a fight as well. Just got to stay more busy, though. I don't want to see a guy like Keyshawn now, with that win, he leaves you hungry to see him again. I don't want to see another year layoff. I don't want it to become the Crawford thing where you're bouncing around and I'm done for a little while and I'm coming back. You create that star power by being busy now. It's the reason why you work in WWF or what is it, WWE now, whatever you call it now. Those guys compete every week, so you're staying in the limelight. Granted, you can because it's staged there.
These guys stay in the gym too. It's not like they get a shape.
But as a fighter, if you're more busy, you're gonna build that star power. But and honestly, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, granted, I guess it is long ago. Tyson fought Selden in September and then fought Holyfield in November. When
he was always a busy fighter.
But even when he was champion, he was just
very busy.
Jump one night to the other. I remember the Selden fight being early September. That's actually when Tupac Shakur got shot.
Yep.
And then 2 months later in November was the Holyfield fight. I mean, literally 2 months later.
Did you see this guy? He said it wasn't that long ago. Then he's mentioning Tupac Shakur getting shot.
Yeah. I realize.
That's a long time ago.
I mean, maybe for me it was a long time ago. I'm getting old. But
September 9th, 1996. You're my age. You remember the date.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think it was the 7th. November was 9th.
He was shot on 9th. He died on the 13th. Died Friday the 13th. Tupac. Yes. Anyway. Whatever. We're all moving on. So another performance, once again, buried by an amazing weekend. Josh Kelly gets the upset win over Bakhram Murtazaliev. We talk about 154 pounds being so great. He's bringing it out. He's bringing it out right now.
Still got that.
But little bit of crow. Murtazaliev, the boogeyman. But it was Kelly who came out moving so well, ripping big punches, seemed to have the secret sauce to get past Murtazaliev. Gentlemen.
Listen, we had spoke about it, and I said if there was a place where you're a Kelly fan where you could see him being, it's because his athleticism. He moves. He's not a runner. He's athletic in the way that he moves. He's not exactly a cutie, and we spoke about that off air too. Right. He wasn't fighting like a cutie. He wasn't throwing punches like a cutie.
He's not now.
And now everything.
Now he's dug down.
So this was my point. I was like, if you're a Kelly guy, and listen, I wasn't either. I'm eating just as much crow as Paulie is, but I wasn't a Kelly guy either in this fight.
I already got full.
Yeah, he's going to have 2 bowls. I'm going to have 1. But, Kelly went out there and he showed. And I said, if you're a backer of Kelly, your saving grace is, but all that stuff that happened to him badly was at 47. Maybe the weight was really hurting him. At 54, he's going to be a whole new thing. He looked like a whole new thing. He looked very athletic. He looked physically strong. He looked durable.
He got up.
Oh, yeah, he got dropped twice.
That's where you say, like, wow, dug in, man. That's what was missing. I always felt Kelly had all the talent and all the skill set and all this other stuff.
Olympian, speed,
physically, all that stuff. That's not what I ever doubted.
Yeah, that wasn't a question.
But the thing is, I've also seen my share of guys like that who they also didn't have the steak to go along with the sizzle, and they fizzle out because they just don't have the dig down in them. And I was starting to think, this Kelly just missing that key ingredient because he's got all the talent. And it will be a waste because it will be a waste of talent. And he showed it. He showed it in this fight. Not just the skills that we know he has, but also, like we talked about, getting up off the canvas. He got tough, and he stayed in there. That's the missing piece for the world-class level.
And you know what's really interesting about that? Is that's not normally something you can learn. That's in there.
Right, and
usually when a guy doesn't have that, it's not.
Well, I tell you,
but
the second guy that shows me that it's there when I thought it can't be there anymore. You know who the first guy was 20 years ago, 20-something years ago, and I'm getting old. Vladimir Klitschko against Sam.
Vladimir Klitschko became tough later in his career.
One of the rare guys to turn it around.
It was 2004. I remember I went to Boardwalk Hall. And I watched that fight with Sam Peter. He got dropped 3 times, but every time he got up, he just kept out boxing Peter and taking him to school. But he kept getting dropped, and he got dropped 3 times, but literally won every round. And I remember leaving Boardwalk Hall and telling my best friend, like, bro, Klitschko turned the corner tonight. It's going to be very, very difficult to beat. And sure enough, he didn't get beat for 11 years. Now, I don't know the corner Kelly has turned here. He's definitely turned the corner as far as the psychology, because it's not just that you do it and you show us you're able to do it. Now, you yourself have seen you can do it.
Champ, I know the corner he turned. He turned the corner right into a John Ennis fight. That fight's going to be so easy to make. So that's the corner he turned.
That's a good point.
That's the corner he turned.
That's a good point. And that's the matchmaker hat, which I like. I enjoy that. But also from a psychological perspective, it's not just that we've seen it. He's also been through it and now knows he can deal with it.
He just beat the boogeyman.
But not just the boogeyman. You've been in a tough situation and you came out of it. I remember I worked that card with AJ and Ruiz for Sky Sports back in the day, and he fought that Ray Robinson fight.
Yes.
And not the legend, this is
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia midweight journeyman, French contender guy, Ray Robinson from a few years ago. And I just couldn't get that performance out of my head. I couldn't believe it. I had always seen Josh look so good, and I was like, and Robinson just pushed him a little bit, and I'm like, he just falls apart. Like, it's not even Robinson's that good. It's just he's just doesn't like being pushed. And I could not get that out of my head. So this was really, really, for me, psychology is a big deal, and it's very tough to turn that corner. Like I said, he's only the second guy I've seen that has all the ability and not the psychology and is able to muster up the psychology. Most guys don't. So this was a very, very impressive by Josh Kelly. And, I look forward to seeing him, against anybody, including Ennis, because like I said, it's not just that we believe it now. He also knows he's able to do this if he has to dig down.
Abbas Barao, of course, taking on Xander Zayas in Puerto Rico. Xander Zayas looking absolutely incredible. Same weight class, 154 pounds, same one as the Kelly fight over Murtazaliev. And Xander Zayas at 23 years old. Chris, you talk about his size, but you also talk about the ability, smooth, clean punches, great combinations. When Barao came after him, trying to make it a gritty, dirty fight, his movement was there, his defense was there. He looked stunning in a stacked weight class. Our cup runneth over, Chris.
How do you not like this kid? I mean, he's got it all. He's got the smile. He talks very well. He's smart. He fights beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. I mean, he really does everything right. He is an archetype boxer puncher. He moves really well. He operates behind a very good, solid jab. He's got a nice left hook. He goes mean to the body with both hands. He's got great counter right hands. I mean, he really was working on everything in that fight, and he needed to, because Barao is a very, very tough guy. And we had spoken about this in prior shows. On paper, that's how this fight happened. Xander has just got all the tools, but this wasn't an on-paper kind of fight. It was. What do you got in here? Do you have that thing? Because Barao's going to bring it out of you. And he did. There was some of those middle rounds. Barao landed some good shots, brought on. Xander kept the ship in the right position the whole time. Never got over his skis. Never got confused with the game plan was set. He kept going back to it. Worked behind the jab. This was, as good as a performance you get. The judge who gave it to Barao.
I don't know what he was watching.
In Puerto Rico.
Get the hell out of
here. He got home.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know where he is right now, but we're hoping he's okay. I hope they find him. Look, but Paulie, when you look at this kind of performance, what stuns me, we always talk about how old we are. Yes, we're old. This kid's 23, where people are going, because he calls out Virgil Ortiz afterwards. Hey, Mexican, Puerto Rico, let's do it. Let's sell some tickets. That would be absolutely huge. A lot of the comments went, man, Ortiz is too much man for him. It's too much. But some very smart person went, yeah, he's also 23, and Ortiz
is also young, right?
Right, but Ortiz 27, 28. Yeah. You get that. You get a little of that man strength. The idea.
Virgil was younger.
No, the idea that Zayas may have a better upside than maybe anybody else in a really talented division. Paulie, what's your thought?
Usually it's Chris taking my points.
That's what I do. Everybody takes your points.
Jimmy,
what we do.
I love when this happens. You just set me up so nicely. Here's the thing.
We're professionals.
The point I was going to make,
right.
and you set me up for a perfect, you segued me into it perfectly, is this. 154 pounds is a super, super deep division. Very good fighters. I'm not sure that Xander is the best fighter in the weight class right now, but he's the one with the most star power. He has the star
right
potential.
Passport. Yep, everything.
Again, young, very marketable. The island of Puerto well-spoken, speaks Spanish as well.
2 languages, yep.
The island of Puerto Rico has been dying for somebody like this since probably Cotto, right? I mean, because, you've had a couple of good Puerto Rican fighters since, but nobody that's grabbed the bull by the horns and made, I'm the Puerto Rican star of the moment, like Cotto did,
potentially
like Trinidad did.
Berlanga was one of those guys they were talking about. Matias was another one they were talking about. Both those guys fell off.
And they never really had that, that's, you knew when Cotto was coming up. You knew when Trinidad was coming up, they were going to be that guy. You had the feeling Xander could be that guy. And he's getting closer and closer to getting there, because also there's a foundation behind him. Just like we were wondering about Josh Kelly, if he has the wherewithal to dig deep, and he showed that this time around in this fight. With Xander, you always kind of knew he was going to have the foundation for that. You always kind of knew he was going to have the character.
He's bred for this.
It was just a matter of. Is he going to be good enough? Because I'm not sure he was quite as talented as a Josh Kelly, but his foundation and fundamentals are very good. He's solid. He's getting better. But he always had the character for it. So the character is a solid foundation to build on. For me, that's the most important characteristic, is the character. You got to build on top of that character. And Xander, you could tell, always had that character. You could see when you spoke to him, his biggest goal is to be the best. To want, and when you live every day like that, and you wake up every day thinking like that, nothing's gonna seem too hard to do as far as the work you got to put in. You do it with a passion, you do it with enthusiasm, and you improve every single time. And this fight for me was a great example of that. Xander Zayas really put on against an opponent that's not easy to look good against, an opponent that's really gonna push you, an opponent that may not be able to match your talent, but he's gonna mentally break you if you're not that kind of guy who has that mental stability. And Xander refused to be broken. I was not surprised in that regard, but I was happy to see him get pushed a little bit and be able to also show that part of it, because now he elevates himself a little bit more. He's getting that much closer.
We have answers about him. The only question mark about him, and thank you to your point, it's not that he didn't have it, or like in Josh Kelly's case, we saw that he didn't have it. He actually failed him before. He's recovered, obviously. Xander, we've never seen him in that position. Now that question is answered. He's got it. And like you were saying about Josh knows it. Now Xander knows it. I can do this. I can be in this position. Not that I'm sure he didn't say that beforehand, but you got that doubt in you no matter what.
Yeah, of course.
There's always that doubt.
But Xander, I think, always felt it, right? And you never know until you know.
Yes.
Like, you always feel. I didn't really know, even though I felt like I knew until I felt cold. And I knew, okay, I can be in the trenches when I need to. But you kind of always know, even though you don't know. With Josh, it had already been.
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. We're getting confused just talking about it, right? But with Josh, I think there was more doubts because, well, he had shown that it was missing. That was a key part of the missing. And like I said, for me, that's the foundation. Everything else has to be on top of a foundation of character and backbone. You has to be there first. And the foundation of character and backbone is something I've always seen in Xander Zayas. He has the foundation and the character to build the skills on top of. And that's why he's getting better and better. And that's why now we're talking about him more and more as this possible Puerto Rican breakout star. He's already a champion, but the Puerto Rican breakout star moniker is right around the corner.
He's a unified champion.
Hold up the two.
He's got
Hold up the two.
Two
belt champion.
Two belt champion in the toughest weight class in the world. So that's a lot.
And he's big, so he may not even last in this weight class.
All right, Chris, hands flat. Okay, you don't shadow box until it's signed, but it looks like might be Kelly taking on Boots. Of course, on the other side, I would love to see Zayas versus Ortiz. Then they come together. But this would be the fight to make on the way up. I don't
see that happening right now. Sorry, guys.
Please.
I don't want to.
That's what I want to hear, Chris. Positives and negatives.
I don't either, but I like the way both
Kelly
guys
Boots,
are moving.
maybe.
Kelly Boots.
We're
getting that.
Kelly Boots is like a name.
That fight happened.
Kelly Boots. Kelly Boots. It sounds like a mobster's name. Yeah, it's Kelly Boots over there. Kelly Boots, the guy who hooks you up.
Hitman Kelly Boots.
Kelly Boots.
I mean, Kelly would go first. He is the champion. So
right.
Kelly Boots. That would be
Kelly
the
Boots.
card. I do think that's going to be the next fight. I think I see that. Yeah, exactly. I think that would happen. I don't know if Virgil and Xander are next. Xander is calling him out, which is very good.
He goes at 160.
You know Ortiz fights anybody. He wants
all the smoke.
All the smoke. And if he has an opportunity to fight for two belts at the same time,
Virgil wants to be world champion.
But also, I'm looking at that fight a lot differently now. A Xander and Ortiz fight. Jimmy, we were talking about off air. Xander gives everybody trouble. He is a really.
But last week he would have said that.
Exactly. Last week I would not have said that.
You still got to. I'm not one for over marinating things, but this one's got to marinate a little more.
You want to marinate a little bit?
But there's
the right thing. There's the right time to do it. Don't get me wrong. The problem in boxing is today they marinate it and they let the food spoil.
Exactly.
And then by the time they make it, I don't even care about it. But I like the marination of this fight right now. For me, for like a year, 18 months.
You let Xander marinate. He's going to be a monster.
It's going to be at 160. Well, Virgil's a monster too. I want the two monsters to be together.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Virgil's a monster too. And honestly, it's probably going to happen at 160 because I don't think either guy's going to stay at 54.
They're big 54s.
I don't think either guy's last.
Right, but let's talk a little bit about that.
But then you really have the Puerto Rican versus Mexico rivalry. You can imagine what it'd be like that.
The writing is on the wall. 160 is going to really grow.
Chris Farley, come on. You can imagine what it'd be like though.
Yeah.
The bus driver, yeah.
Yep. But this idea.
I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited.
I know. But Paulie, when you look at the ability to marinate a fight, we say it all the time. 54.
Can't let it spoil though.
54 is killer after killer after killer after killer. This idea of you can let it marinate, but you can't stay away from the fights.
They marinate because they have such a huge following.
Right.
So marinate it correctly because they have such a huge following. Sometimes when there's not a big following,
when
they're not, because they're already world class level. So if there's nothing to marinate as far as the following is concerned, then you just make the fight because they're already world class level. There's fights that have to marinate and fights that don't have to marinate. You know what I mean? Like Gervonta Davis marinated against everybody. He didn't fight anybody.
Right.
You know, so I don't want that. You know,
Yeah, but
you
Paulie,
can't over-marinate it. You gotta, especially when you got ticket sellers.
When you're talking
when
about
you got
titles,
ticket sellers,
though, it's hard to marinate something.
But Trinidad and De La Hoya had belts for several years before they finally came together. But that fight happened at the right time, even though it ended up being a dud. But that fight happened at the right time. It was marinated
they were
correctly.
both champions. Virgil's not a champion. Xander has the
But
belt.
Xander,
You gotta defend the titles.
okay. Well, you know what? It's probably going to go to 160
Fine,
anyway.
fine, make it happen.
No, they're going to go to 160. I'm telling you, it's going to happen at 160. I don't think it's going to happen at 154. They're going to, and maybe.
So you don't think Virgil's
maybe
going to get a
Virgil's
belt?
the one with the belt at 160. Yeah. You know, I mean, bro, a 60 is a desolate. I mean, even Adames just missed weight. That was the best guy there.
Weight, yeah.
You know, so what do we got at 60 really? It's going to have a whole new rebuild at 60 regardless. And these young phenoms, I think, are going to start to make their way to 54 from 54 to 60.
No, 60's got a great future.
Yeah.
Great future. These guys are going to bleed into
because
that
some of these
weight class,
54s can't make weight anymore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
they're all
Granted,
big.
if you start moving back the weigh into Monday, you guys could stay out the weight classes forever. But if normal weigh-ins happen on normal days, these guys would have already been moved up. You know, I think the only reason they're managing to stay at these lower weight classes is because the commissions keep pushing the weigh-in time further and further back, which I think is moronic, by the way. But regardless, I don't think they have a lot long left.
And what happens? We let this marinate?
Delicious.
Delicious right here.
It's a sin.
It's a sin, man. It's a sin.
If you let it spoil, it's a sin.
But so much left to talk about these incredible results, these incredible matchups that are a possibility in 2026. We're loving the marinade. We're getting hungry right here on Boxing Scene today. As the pieces come together, this is where it makes news. Join us to find out why millions are watching. It's like lead. Boom.
If you over marinate, the fans get salty. You don't want that.
But you overcook it, it's no good.